Okay, so I am recording this for a number of purposes. One, for original, just you do realize that it's not pre fucking scripted by myself or pre really thought out by myself. Um, also, yes, Avery, if you get involved to help your younger brother, I think that this will also help. So, the origin of this is obviously that trip that I took like 8.5, almost 9 years ago with a guy named Gregory Bridges, who is originally from Texas but has moved to New Mexico. As to whether or not he's still here, I don't know, but he used to be living with his parents, and that was like in Hernandez. Okay, so him and he convinced me to take a trip with him. I think I flew to Texas, he picked me up, and so began the next part of hell essentially, and fucking my life over in so many different ways. So Texas is fine. We went to fucking Missouri. I was literally methadone sick for like, I don't know, a week and a half, to a point that guy took me to an ER, and we all know what ERs tell junkies, even when past 20 years. If you're sick, too bad. Um, so, but that's how sick I was. So I was in a area of incredibly high drug traffic and use, like pretty much motels with prostitutes and shit like that. Uh, Whatever. So that's all we could afford, actually. However, so we were asking around for opiates to, for my wellness, because I was just at an unfunctional level. Okay, so I wouldn't ask anybody who like looked like blue collar and like they didn't might not have a vice in one way or the other. So I'm just gonna say it, whatever. I'm not 100%. Obviously, can't be 100%, and I don't even remember who it was, but apparently somebody that I asked for heroin essentially on the street was that of a nationalist organization, clandestine. Which of them I don't know, because I don't even know. I know like three off the top of the head, and that's probably the same three everybody knows. So, okay, so that happened. I can fast forward from this, get back to New Mexico via Greyhound and whatnot, and thought it was over, and said eventually, soon came to figure out that it wasn't. And at first, I told people all I knew and what was happening to me, and that was that myself and my mother were being harassed and threatened, and everybody was just like, "You did too much speed." Story of my life, whatever. And yeah. So how can I progress this super fast? Okay, so I told a lot of people, nobody believed me. Um, and I started calling the FBI, honestly, on a probably like way too soon and sounded way too manic. Um, and on top of that, my affiliation, like, why would anybody invest this much time and energy fucking with myself? Like, I'm nobody, and if all I did was ask somebody on the street for narcotics, especially somebody in an extremely high narcotics area, that just doesn't add up, right? But on one hand, my mother and I would be perfect because of our family ties to literally nobody within a very long ways. And thank God the people of Chimayo actually have gotten to know me, and for a long time prior to that. Otherwise, I would probably already be far worse. So there's that. Okay, so we get back here. I called the FBI a bunch of times, and it gets chalked up to, especially at first by local law enforcement, when they inquired as amphetamine-induced psychosis. And due to my incredibly lengthy history of drug use, that is the perfect, not even planned, but that would be number one go-to, you know. So over the number of years, though, my drug use has dropped off to, I mean, a tenth of a fraction of what it was realistically. That is still kind of hopping far ahead with this. So next, without clear whatever, my jobs started getting like messed with. I was like getting like harassed at my jobs and stuff. And two, uh, you know, it was like every fucking job, and as well as a couple of people were told, and I mean, like literally, people would just be like, "Oh, don't fuck with that guy. He's a rapist, thief. He's a nigger. Blah 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 blah." I hate to use the N word, but that's exactly what this was. It has progressed to the point that other people have told law enforcement that like there is some seriously weird stuff happening around this guy, but it's been incredibly hard to prove, especially from a video and a standpoint of somebody with a non-biased opinion. Okay, um, how the fuck do I do this? I'm gonna cut out all the middle stuff. This last time that I was arrested, it was under frankly incredibly scrutinizable circumstances, especially with the fact that of how the charges were, how they came about to be. You know, a guy called me an N word. I threw a rock at his car. I'll admit to that. I'll go with the criminal damage to property. Why not? That's the least of my worries. Um, and Okay, but during the arrest, right? Like when the officer caught up to me, I should have immediately complied, but it was such ridiculousness that I didn't run, I didn't jog, I didn't any of that. I turned and was like, "Give it a rest, man." No, and I started to walk away. However, immediately upon placing hands on me, I dropped to the ground and complied. Right, as I know, you're not going to want to fight with a cop, especially these days. Whatever. So I was under duress, face down on the ground, hands behind me in restraints, and before like I was pulled back up, the accuser, he pulled up and parked behind the police officer. Okay, the accuser ran up and threw a knee into the back of my neck while I was already face down under duress. Which one, the officer should have intervened as soon as that guy, be him prior law enforcement experience or not, he should have intervened and say, hey, no, back up, back up. Officer didn't even do that. He just let it happen. Dude threw a knee in the back of my neck, which is illegal for many different standpoints, from the interference with arrest, interference with investigation, and on top of the George Floyd thing. Okay, so whatever. I go to jail. I go to jail, and I'm in jail. Whatever. The next most legally significant thing that I am going to have kind of hard time proving, but I think has been spoken aloud and boasted about by my opposing forces or people that are trying to, fuck me up legally and every otherwise. They fed me this crazy pill, like not another inmate, like the jail nurse, and it was crazy. But she was like, "Oh, it's amitriptyline." It was Firehouse Red and like a double UFO, as in like fire hat, but both sides. Like I could sketch it if anyone asked me. Imprint on it, there possibly could have been, but at that point in time, I have a hard time because I have been on opiate maintenance for so long. I just kind of ate it, and if there was an imprint, I just don't remember. And I really, really trusted that nurse. Like I trusted her above anybody else in that facility at that point in time. And I just went along with it. Okay, so past that, the other things that were notably backwards about that were I came to find out, as well as that, the other medications that what they were feeding me and what they claimed to be were completely different. Like they give me this morning dose of amitriptyline that was brown, and round, small, and it had I2 on it. And I was like, dude, I know this pill. I don't think this is amitriptyline, but I was like, no, Cole, you're just being fucking paranoid. You're just being paranoid. As well as my tizanidine. The tizanidine that they claimed to be feeding me was a round, which is across like a 4 score thing through it. And I don't think they make tenazine like that. It's a little round oval, you know? But I just said you're being paranoid or went out on faith or said maybe it's different pharmaceutical manufacturers, which could be explained but to a point, right? But I started noticing people being slightly nervous around me, or like, but why would they? I'm a fucking other inmate. Like, come on, man. Long story short, before I was taken to Santa Fe Recovery Center, I started noticing like a different feeling in what I say, my testicles, like seriously, and not just paranoid, like a different feeling. Like it felt like two foreign objects that blood had stopped flowing to, like sloshing around in essentially a fucking sack, but they did not feel to be physically a part of me, right? I also was having problems gaining an erection. And frankly, for a dude laying around 24-hour lockdown in bed all day, your imagination should be able to take care of that pretty quick, especially with no other external stimuli. Okay, so there was that. So I get taken out of my cell next morning or whatever. I get taken out of my cell early in the morning, and the jailers tell me, "Hey, get ready, you're going to rehab." All right. And I have to get something to drink. Hold on, Rip. Okay, so you're being taken to Santa Fe Recovery Center. Okay. So it was Timmy, and I was just like one of the heads of the jail. I don't think he had any implication in anything in any way, shape, or form. I'm just trying to denote details. Um, I can't think of the other guy's name, but he's been there as long as I can remember as well. Um, they take me to Santa Fe Recovery Center, and I'm in like the intake building or whatever, and like I started hearing some other sounds and stuff of things I shouldn't have been hearing. And at that point in time, I was clean with nothing more than Suboxone in me for upwards of like 28 days. So this can't even be blamed on intoxicate. What the fuck are you know what I'm saying? Especially the doctor. I denoted sounds, but generally I hear stuff around me, and that's as to whether or not it's of any significance to anybody else other than myself in my gut. Probably not. And this has been I've been hearing like unwarranted screams around me for the better part of 10 fucking years. And it's whether it's people fucking around and just fucking with me or actual physical implications for people threatening other people will is to remaining to be proven. So, but the thing that really stood out was my when the doctor was talking to me about my medication. She was nervous with an anxiety level to the point of I disregarded my own hypothetical theories and made me worried why she was like kind of like let's just get this motherfucker out of here, to the fact that she scripted me like 5 or 6 things that I've never, or like more like 3 or 4 things that I never even heard of had any use for like allergy antihistamines and shit, right? I was just like, okay, whatever, just weird. But then I just said, what the fuck ever. I just shut down my conspiracy theories about it, and just progressed. And so next point we're I'm in Santa Fe Recovery Center, and they never had my medication, even to the point that the guy that I was doing intake with, which was one other male, he got his medication within a couple hours of being at the recovery center. Even into the next morning, they never had anything for me, right? But this is weird too. The medication dispensal guy there actually used to be one of the methadone dosers at the methadone clinic across from Angelina's, and like whatever. That was really spooky, man. 'Cause he like knew me off the bat, and I saw him. And I was like, dog, this ain't good. This really ain't fucking good. To the point that the next morning they took my blood pressure. I think around like 9 or something in the morning. It was like 155 over 70. Like when the guy in charge found out about that, I heard him flipping out on like his rudimentary medical staff. Like why the fuck didn't you call me? Like that's really fucked up. Um, and there were a couple other things going on that I felt best to have my mother pick me up and not only go to the hospital get my balls checked, um, but on a level of that was irresponsible and just medical malpractice on from a couple standpoints, especially for somebody who's attempting recovery. So my mother and my mother comes to pick me up, and her and I are off to UNF. Do I still have? I really hope I have that. Well, even not, there's yeah, I even have my bracelet from UNM still. Okay, so even so, to check the cameras and this and that, I was there. I left ahead of time due to people who I feared had justified or unjustified reason for harming me and possibly my mother physically. And so, like, and it was crazy too, especially how quickly I was seen with our, I mean, UNM emergency room is just packed. And, like, within getting there, I got taken back to triage, honestly, within 8 minutes. I just got there. There's a whole room full of motherfuckers. I mean, people. Anyways, that happens, blah blah blah. But it was this number of coincidences just kind of racked up in my brain. I'm like, no, this is gonna end up being worse than just letting myself die via clogged up kidneys because my body, but my balls, if they were being dead, the shit would start to break down to the point that it would start to clog up my kidneys. So I would be taken or die from essentially kidney kidney failure, if not this or that. So okay, we're on the way back from UNM. I stop. I tell my best friend, and I tell him that, and like to the point that people just don't believe me. I think they just think I'm a fucking whack job. And it's more like I'm a crazy fucking weird anomaly that scares myself. Um, so I take and I get a pint of fucking importers, and I didn't even drink it. Come back here to the house, and I'm scared of hospitals to the point from Espanola Hospital to now UNM that it's to me at that point in time, especially with everything else going on, I figure, fuck it, man. Like this sounds really morbid, but I would rather just go home and pass away from kidney failure, or at least get to the point where I go into like shock and start flopping, and hopefully that I just DNR, whatever. It's really fucked up. However, due to my unforeseen and unknown bio, like body health and shit, especially the fact that my mother raised us with like all these crazy homeopathics and vitamins and stuff that from a medical standpoint still not quite possible, but the only slightly way to be able to explain why my condition didn't just like make me so sick that I just slipped into a coma or just went into not cardiac arrest, but start plotting. What the fuck ever. So I get past that, right? And I'm like, wow, this is really fucking strange. And in the process, I had also been more sober than I literally had been since probably 11 years old. So I get this crazy moment of clarity, but it was more like 4, 5, 6, 7 days of clarity. I think it was about 6 days or something of clarity, but a lot of it came at once. I don't know why this is particularly significant, but I had like this moment of clarity where everything in my life made sense, like why my life essentially has been pretty morbid and depressing. Um, how can I make this relevant?